It was really rough. I mean, it's just a feeling I honestly don't like to talk about because, I mean, we came up short. And then, and I mean, that's obviously never the goal. But, I mean, that's what obviously fills the hunger and gets you ready to come back and compete for another one.
As you would imagine, that loss, the narrow CFP loss, and the program's first ever appearance in the CFP to Washington in the Sugar Bowl remains a bitter taste, if you will. And I'm pretty sure that's all the motivation the Longhorns need as they enter this 2024 season and their first ever season in the SEC. We continue our series, our installments of Camp #Hook'em Football, and we have a new face tonight. But you probably remember him. He's recently removed himself or stepped down from the local media in Austin, Texas, and we will soon have 4 faces. Scheduling, family, obligations, everything is part of life. But the next installment of Camp #Hook'em Football is up next. Let's ride. Oh, I love that. Anytime Tyler Feldman joins the show, we have to be very dramatic. And I have to, before we go any further, the most important aesthetically pleasing piece of this episode has got to be the 1992 interior design that both Danny and Tyler have chosen for their living space. Good open floor plan. I like it, gentlemen. I mean, did you guys collaborate? Well, what's going on here?
Well, I don't know if you've seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, but Larry David once used an interior design lady, and Danny and I guess, happen to use the same one. It's a pretty grand interior design. You see the grand piano. Danny, I had no idea we used the same lady, but this is awesome. Your place looks great. The stone fireplace, sign me up.
I'd seen a couple of Hard show, and I was like, who set up your place? And they came over, and I don't know why Clinch is hating on this grand piano life, because I think me and Tyler are living it large right now. So
I don't think I won't go back there and play a little something during this podcast. Danny and I are also sporting baseball shirts, so Clinch, get with the program.
Yeah, I'm falling behind. I went with the blue alligator, the Lacoste. And that makes me sound like I'm fancy and have good taste, but clearly I don't. And I told Danny before, my love for museums, the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City, must visit, but I've not been yet. Not been. I'm just being honest.
What an approval rating there. But I haven't been.
It's been on my top five.
The advertisements sounds like a good time, but I'm not going.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I highly recommend too that the Civil Rights Museums in Birmingham and in Memphis, must visits. By the way, I've been to the one in Memphis twice. Emotional. That's all I can say. It's good stuff. Hey, before we move forward, before I move on with these two esteemed gentlemen, go ahead and follow all of our social media platforms. It takes a half an hour to get through all of the social media platforms these days, and show some love to these. And I'm not even pointing to them because it's outside of my Brady Bunch square, but Jim Saxton State Farm, Longhorn legacy. His dad was a Heisman finalist back in the day for the Longhorns. He's been insuring Austin for several decades. Hargrove Roofing, know who's on your roof. And, you know, everyone loves good carbs and shakes. Dirty Martin's Place, the saloon. Hey, just say no to Project Connect if you want it to stay there in that location. And Honest Plumbing and Air, where a handshake still means something. Danny Davis is the only one who's legit media still. And I know he has great stories, but I have to give a shout out to Tyler Feldman for working for the Channel of Champions, in which I devoted a good portion of the latter portion of my life. You've got out of the business. Sum up your traveling adventures.
I got out of the business is a broad sense. I'm still in the business. Look what I'm doing tonight. I mean, I left KVU so I could do this regularly.
I wish
Danny's actually been on KVU more in the last month than I have, so that's saying something.
Well, you're still extremely talented, and your journey is not over. You just temporarily took a step back.
Well, I retired at 31, which everyone will be able to read that, how I was able to do that in my memoir when it gets published in about a decade. So,
well, I'll tell you that I'm looking forward to that book, and Danny and I will promote it. I know that Danny is still in it. We just follow his lead. And I guess the first topic is, we'll start with Danny. What is the basement and ceiling of this Longhorn team right now?
I mean, the ceiling's a national champion. I mean, I think that's obvious. If you're a top 5 team in the preseason poll, I think that we can all do the math there. The basement, I mean, I think they're probably a top 25 team, regardless of what happens, unless something disastrous happens. But at this point, with all the hype going into the season, being the number 25 team in the country isn't good enough. That'd be considered a disaster among these fans. So I don't think it's a 2010 like basement for this team, or they went 5-7 and Garrett couldn't get it done, and it was just a complete disaster. But if they slip and lose to Georgia, lose to Oklahoma, lose to Michigan, maybe drop that A&M game, there aren't going to be a lot of happy people in Austin, regardless of what bowl game this team ends up in. And if they finish the season in the top 25, the ceiling is what everyone's going for here.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler, regardless of what your status is right now, you're deeply connected to this program. You did a lot of good work covering the Longhorns, and you still have the pulse of this team. I mean, obviously, I know that was a pretty obvious question on my part.
Probably
the ceiling.
To me, what's the least amount of wins this Texas team could possibly end up with? That's an interesting.
That's a better question.
I think 6. Is 6 as low as you'd go? I don't see them winning less than 8 games.
Okay.
But as Danny said, the ceiling's a national championship. You look at the pieces coming back. People haven't talked enough about the offensive line. I think that's going to be a huge strength. First season in the SEC, all those guys coming back, the size, the experience with Quinn and the way in which Quinn has handled everything this offseason. It seems like he's just in that laser-focused mindset, and that has to permeate throughout the team. I guess you could see this Texas team winning only 6 games if you're crazy, but I don't think there's any way they win less than 8. They should win way more than 8 and compete for a national championship. But if the team stays healthy, right? Running back CJ's out already and devastating, but you got guys behind him. But as long as the team stays healthy, I don't see why this team shouldn't compete for a national championship.
Barron Sorrell, the great defensive end, just looks great in 88. It's perfect for him. He talks about how to become a national champion. It's not just proclaiming it. This is what becoming a national champion, or how to, in his opinion.
I mean, you don't just wake up one day and say you're hungry for it. You got to prove it every single day. I mean, there's only one team out of the whole country that is going to be able to stand up on that stage at the end of the year, and it takes every day to find things to get better at, being attentive in meetings, being attentive in practice, and just using those things to feel that hunger so then you can be a national champion at the end of the year.
And see, Danny, to be great and award-winning journalist, you've got to be great every day. Am I wrong?
I wouldn't know. I'm not an award-winning journalist.
Well, you should be. I would nominate you. That is virtually nonsense.
Heck, even I have an award.
I have got to talk to my bosses about why they never submit my stuff for award season, but that's another conversation for another day. But I'm not sure what the question was, but go.
Well, the habits. We've all heard it for several years, and Danny, you and I both. Decades, and Tyler, you've heard it. Everyone says our goal is to win a championship. But when people say that, you don't want to say it to burst anybody's bubble, but that team doesn't have a chance. But this Texas team truly does. But from being around the group, Danny, do you see that? Do you see that they practice like they take every rep as serious to become better every practice, so to speak?
I mean, sure. I mean, the 20-minute windows that we get.
I miss those.
You really miss those coming out to those. But
horrible.
Yeah, I mean, you would expect that kind of an answer and that kind of response from Barron. He is a veteran defensive lineman. This is his last shot. I kind of think at this point, with what NIL is and what college football is, I mean, this is a job. And these are young men who are figuring out how to do their jobs. And whether you're at Texas or Montana or Stephen F. Austin or Penn State, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you're expected to be a professional and act like a professional, and that means busting your butt in every practice, making the most of all your opportunities. And if you see one of your teammates or someone else slacking, to get on their case to make sure everyone's on the right page. And I don't think Texas is any different than most other schools across the country, especially during fall camp. I doubt if you went down to Texas State, they're just all slacking and not doing anything during practice. But Texas also has the talent, and so you combine the talent with the work ethic, and that'll get you on the right path to a championship. But I'm not surprised to hear during the second week of August that they're having good practices and they're giving it their all.
Everything's great.
We'll see what that means in a couple of weeks.
That's right, Tyler. This is old hat for you too. I mean, you've heard it. You've been down that road before, but it is a little different this year.
Sure. I mean, at this point of the season, I think getting too far ahead of yourself is something you should not do. It's still early preseason. Season hasn't even kicked off yet. But as Danny alluded to, this really is a job, and it's a job for 18 to 21-year-olds, some older than 21. And I think that pressure is what's going to be one of the biggest keys to this Texas football team, the success with Steve Sarkisian in charge. Is how do they handle the pressure of coming back as a team that will have that target on their back, not just because they're Texas, not just because it's their first season in the SEC, but also because they played in a college football playoff semifinal last year. So you add all those things up, and it's how do you handle the pressure? The talent I'm not worried about. Staying healthy, I'm always going to be somewhat worried about when it comes to a college football team, any football team, a high school football team, an NFL team. It's a long season. And staying healthy is always a big key, especially for certain players in particular. But it's the pressure of all those areas that I just mentioned that will be the biggest key for this Texas football team. And we don't really get to see, Danny, in those 20-minute windows back when I was there at practice, you don't really see the inside football of those battles. Really, in my 3 years covering the Longhorns, I never saw one argument, disagreement in a practice setting. It just was something that maybe was communicated, hey, during this window, we're not doing this. But it also was pretty much them just stretching and throwing the football 50 yards. So from that perspective, what the media is able to see is not really conducive to, figuring out what this team will be.
Tyler, I said last episode, I have seen many, many years, and especially in Norman and in Austin, championship level calisthenics. I've had a collection of video of great hamstrings that could have made a run to the BCS and the CFP.
Hey, my argument there is don't sleep on those calisthenics. Those players better be warming up and getting their bodies right before they practice hard, because you do not want – CJ Baxter, Danny, maybe you can talk more on this, but the way in which he got injured, was it freak? What was the scenario? But again, going through those motions, critical. We laugh about it, but let's not skip the easy stuff. That's what championship teams do, right?
Yes, stretching is very important. That's a lesson we all learned when we were, in elementary school, grade school. And there's a reason. Torrey Beckton gets paid a lot of money. And he's maybe the hardest working coach on that staff. Strength and conditioning coach and that entire team that they have over there. I mean, that sports science team over at Texas for all the sports is no joke, because that is obviously an important thing. It's also at the same time, though, if you're a media member and you get 20 minutes to watch practice, that's like the last thing you want to see. Like, have the guys do their stretches beforehand and get that all out of the way before we come in there, and then you can just throw on air for 5 minutes before you kick us out. But I don't think I'm gaining anything by watching the Quinn do some leg kicks, regardless of how it may or may not be.
Well, actually, a few weeks ago, I got a tour of Texas A&M's facilities.
Nice.
Unbelievable. I mean, the room and space they have up there, obviously a lot bigger and more spacious than UT in the 40 acres, but their weight room, they have technology now that basically tracks how much force.
Mm-hmm.
The facilities that Texas A&M has, and that they're building even more stuff out there in College Station. Texas is obviously going to come through with that new practice facility on campus next to DKR. But these college athletes, now professionals, have all the technology and stuff in the world to really improve their game. It's just important to, take care of your body in doing so.
And notable, a lot of the guys, the 1%ers who go to the NFL, they will have experienced better facilities and better dining in college than they will in the NFL at some of these programs like Texas.
That's because there's an arms race. There's an arms race in college athletics that is not present in the NFL. The NFL's like, you're welcome. You get to play for us. College, like, hey, we want you to come to our school. I mean, it's two very different dynamics. But Texas A&M, Texas, a lot of these major D1 programs, have way better facilities. I think we saw that with Xavier Worthy when he was in Kansas City. He posted a picture from one of the locker rooms that they have there, and it didn't look great at all.
No, that's because we're all I will say it, we're all entitled to an extent. So last episode, Tyler, while you were traveling, seeing family, and just living your best life, we got to the subject of the yards per carry that Texas allowed last year, 2.9 yards. And Danny made a good statement. He said there's no way that that's going to happen again with the loss of T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. And we saw Byron Murphy's already disrupting NFL offensive lines in preseason. But David Gbenda had a good quote or a good soundbite on how the defense will be different. But I'll be really curious to what both of you have to say of how this defense will truly look different but be productive.
I'd say we're going to be more attacking. I mean, obviously last year we were pretty good, but we're trying to double the production because to go to the national championship, defense wins championships. I've heard that age-old saying, but it is true. So we're trying to sort of embody that and double the production we had last year.
Danny, first off, is Gbenda the best interview on the team?
I mean, to define best, I mean, he's a good talker. He'll give you good quotes, but if I want to laugh, bring Gbenda in there. If I want a good story, there's a couple other guys who are good. I mean, David's pretty straightforward and really thinks about his answers and gives you good quotes. But I mean, I'm also in the news business, and every once in a while I like a little spicy quote. And I think David Gbenda's ever given us a sound clip that is going to be bulletin board material or get those clicks or get those eyes on TV. So, I mean, it's probably your definition of what best is.
And let me just say, there's nothing wrong with just being right down the middle. We live in this world where everyone wants the clicks. That's what everyone wants. But there's nothing wrong with just giving a nice, solid answer. David Gbenda, I believe, wants to be an analyst. I remember having some conversations last season where
he's got it.
And I think you can tell when he's answering, he's trying to elevate each time. And I've seen a lot of growth in how he's handled the media since first interviewing him a couple of years ago.
So his answer about being a more attacking defense, Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator, he's shown he can dial up some, obviously mixed zone coverages, zone blitzes, whatnot, exotics. Danny, you go first. When he says attacking, what is that? What do you envision?
I mean, we'll find out. I mean, Steve was kind of asked the same question today, and he kind of didn't give a full endorsement to David's statement. So you kind of like to be able to do both attack more and also do what they did last year and, cause enough problems with your front four. I mean, but I think David, being a linebacker, probably wants to crash a little bit more and get some of those sacks and get some of those highlight reel plays in the backfield. So if PK is dialing up some more blitzes or they're working on some of that stuff, I'm sure he's salivating in practice. So, but it's gonna, we're gonna find out early. We're gonna find out what this personnel that they have. I'm sure Texas would love if they can disrupt with 4 to go with 4, but I think they're probably gonna have to mix in some more blitzing because they don't have those guys clogging the middle anymore, and we'll just find out.
How about you, Tyler? When you hear attacking, and you saw enough of their rotation, even without Murphy and T. Sweat. I mean, they obviously brought in some guys from the portal from Arizona. When you hear attacking with the personnel that you're familiar with, what do you see?
I really believe that not having Murph, not having Sweat, Jalen Ford now out of the picture actually gives Texas defensively a little bit of an advantage I feel like a lot of teams will overlook or think that they have an advantage over the UT defense because those 3 guys are out of the picture. Now, on paper, there's a lot to prove for this Longhorn defense, but I also think that having to prove something will benefit PK's defense, especially early in the season than going into SEC play, because these are guys that are hungry to make their mark, to prove something. And that's what they're going to need because the offense for me, even with CJ Baxter being out for the season, weapons galore. I can't wait to watch this Texas offense. The Texas defense I'm excited about too, but they have a lot more to prove, especially that secondary. When I hear attacking, I hear a team that wants to be aggressive and show that they're here to play. That's what I hear when I hear Gbenda say that.
I can see it. And I can see it because you both painted the picture for me. So, I mean, I think, Danny, last episode, too, we talked about how, they're trying to improve that pass defense. And so, it may be more balanced, like Tyler said, to get the free opportunity, the free pass rush lanes, and they may be a more aggressive defense that way. Now, something off the field that I really didn't pay much attention to, and I think we can all agree that college football at this level is becoming more and more like a mirror image of the NFL. I mean, amateurism, we can laugh about it now. NIL, it's great. I'm all for it. But now you've got the mandatory injury reports. Like the Big Ten does it. The SEC, and then correct me if I'm wrong, is it going to be implemented or is that still up for debate?
I think the CBS reported last week that it's going to happen by the beginning of the season, but it's not fully rubber stamped. But the feeling is it will be something that happens this season.
I just wasn't sure because I really didn't. I don't know why. I just didn't think it was going to happen. But Tyler, I mean, the NFL's doing it. They've done it forever. And help me understand, is it the week of, or what are they trying to do? Is it by midweek or game day?
Yeah, maybe that's a better question for Danny because in my experience covering college football, ECU Pirates back in the day, Texas Longhorns, I mean, trying to get an injury update out of Steve Sarkisian earlier in the week. Someone has to ask that question. It was never me, but someone had to ask if someone was healthy or not, and you may get something, you may not. But look, the reality is if they're going to mandate it and that's going to happen, then that's the reality of college football. You said it. It's no longer amateurism. There's protecting the kids, but to a certain degree, I'm indifferent. It doesn't change. You go play the game on Saturday. You game plan. Like if you're worrying about that, you're worrying about the wrong things.
Well,
unless you have money on the game, and then you obviously care about those injury reports.
That's funny you said that, because Sark, he commented on that because he's been experienced with the NFL game, and then he addressed that piece.
And whether that's for the opponent, whether that's because now we don't have to worry about leaks out of our building, and as it pertains to this new idea of online gambling and all the stuff that's going on out there, like, hey, this is where we're at. Here's who's out. Here's who's questionable. Here's who's probable. And we go from there. And again, and if you don't do it the right way, then fine us. Then that's on us as coaches that we're not disclosing what needs to be disclosed.
So he nipped it in the bud. I don't have any. It's not. Unlike Tyler, Danny, it's not going to affect me in any way, shape, or form unless I've got $10,000 and going with the over for a Texas game.
I mean, sure, agreed. I mean, there are a million things to worry about during the week. I guess it'll be nice to have a little clarity on some of the things. Maybe we can spend our time asking other questions, as media. But I mean, this is for the gamblers. This isn't for us. This is for obviously online gambling, and gambling's taken over now, and obviously a huge part of the sports landscape. And if that's pumping a lot of money into your atmosphere, especially in this NIL world, and the athletes are about to start getting paid by the schools. I mean, you have to be honest and have some good faith efforts towards who's going to play and who's not going to play. And I'm sure some of the coaches are probably grimacing a little bit, but if everyone's playing the same game, it is what it is. I mean, I'm also of the belief that opposing coaches get paid a lot of money too, and they're not dumb. And they have sources at schools, and they can see film and all that stuff. And I'm sure they are just as aware about opposing injuries as a lot more than the media. And they're also smart enough to have backup plans in case, Quinn, for example, if he was questionable, he comes out in shorts. I'm sure the opposing team has game plan for Arch as well. So I don't think it's that huge of a deal, but it will give me one less thing to worry about in a Monday press conference.
Just to add some clarity, I'm never going to make a $10,000 wager on anybody. Over, under, Texas, SFA, Montana. It's not going to happen. I just want to clear that up. I don't want any rumors started that Clinch is dropping money on Saturdays to some bookie in Austin, Texas.
Hey, thanks for clarifying. If you need help, I'm here for you, buddy. If you want to place a $10,000 wager.
Hey, you guys know my Venmo, I think. So if I need some assistance for a wager, I know where to go. You guys are reliable humans. Just a big reminder, a week from Wednesday, the 21st, we've only done 2 live shows in the history of this podcast since the COVID lockdown. We're going to do one from Boulevard Bar and Grill. Short. It's called The Bully, Far West Boulevard. We're going to have a 90-minute show, 3 segments, Longhorn and college football, then Austin area high school football, and then the last, Cowboys and Texans. Is the Cowboys truly America's team? It's starting to fade. And then we'll have the guest. We had a little sightseeing today to try to plan it out and get there. The beverages are very tasty and cold, and they have some of the best bar food in the ATX Metro. So come join us. Get there early. Get your seats. Space is limited, but it's a great place. The Boulevard, Far West Bar and Grill. And hopefully I get to see these two gentlemen there. Of course, Danny does have a son. I don't know if that would be something he wants to expose his son to this early, but he does. He does. We're going to take a quick break, and we get to see our pal Stevie Lee act a little bit. And when we come back, I got to get your take on Dion ripping into a media brethren of ours. That's coming up on the other side of this break.
Here at Hargrove Roofing, we try to think outside the box to kind of get the creative juices flowing. So I brought in my friend Stevie Lee, former defensive tackle for the Texas Longhorns. He's going to help the team strategize, really motivate them, light a fire
This guy's going to block down. This guy's going to block down. You put your butt into the guard, and that way my Mike linebacker gets free to do what?
Not only are they going to learn a thing or two, but they're going to also leave with a great attitude and a bunch of smiles on their faces.
I'm sorry, what does this have to do with roofing exactly?
Get out.
Right now.
I said get out.
For me, that's what it's all about. It's just having fun, making our employees have a great time. Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof.
Eric Christensen with CBS Sports Colorado.
CBS,
Tyler,
I'm not doing nothing with CBS. Next question.
Joe Rigo, Mile High
Ain't got nothing to
Sports
do with
Radio.
you. It's above that. Ain't got nothing to do with you. I got love for you. I appreciate you, respect you. Ain't got nothing to do with you. They know what they did.
I'm here in Denver, not national.
You are who you are. CBS is CBS.
All right.
All right, gentlemen. I have my own opinion. Start around the corner up top next to me in the Brady Bunch family boxes. Danny, what was your first reaction to that? And then having done some reading or research into it, what's your thoughts on it now?
Hey, this is Deion's act. I mean, this isn't anything new. I mean, he was pulling this nonsense when he was at Jackson State, and reporters were calling him Deion and not calling him Coach, or calling him Coach Prime or something like that, and expecting these adults to refer to him as coach, like he's their high school coach or some nonsense like that, and refusing to answer questions if you didn't do that, and being sensitive because there's some loose affiliation between the local Denver TV station, which by the way pays him to do a coaching show, and CBS National, which whatever story they're upset about, whether it was their coaching list, which is just probably someone on their national desk just looking for stir the pot on a random Wednesday, or some reporting into some of this stuff about his son, which is all open record and facts, and him equivocating the two, or, he got into an exchange with the Denver Post reporter who he doesn't like and has written some mean things about. I mean, Deion just has thin skin, and I think he expects everyone to, worship him like he's a Dallas Cowboy. Again, and this is the 90s, instead of him being the coach of whatever they were, 4-8 team last year that missed a bowl game. And he should probably focus a little bit more on doing his job than picking on the media. Because let's face it, this is not saying that Austin's full of a bunch of Woodwards and Bernsteins, but the Colorado Buffaloes media corps is pretty welcoming of Deion. And I don't think he gets thrown too many hard, fastballs, or that many people are ripping him in columns the next day. I mean, he kind of gets to walk on water, in part because of some of the attention he's brought to that program and how he's rejuvenated that program. But it's okay for the Denver Post to write a couple mean things about you, Deion. You'll be fine. Just go do your job, because if you go 4-8 again, there are going to be a lot more mean things going to be said about you, and you're going to just not hold press conferences anymore.
I agree, Tyler. You feel differently? I mean, I think we're honestly, we all feel the same.
Pretty much the same. It's an old act.
Yeah.
It's very much what media consumption has become now, where I saw that. I didn't even watch it. It's not something I care to consume. I think Deion has walked on water in his eyes his entire life, beck and call, no matter the situation. Nothing that he has done as a father, as a coach, as a player has ever been wrong. No one's ever tried to correct him. If they have, they were the one who was in the wrong. And for me, it's an insecurity as a coach. When you go that route, when it's just so unnecessary, and you don't want to take the time to understand how CBS National is different from CBS Local.
You're right.
When you just want to push that to the side and say, nope, it's not right in my eyes, I don't want to take the time to understand it, I no longer give it the time. And the irony is I'm giving it the time right now to discuss it with you two when I didn't even take the time to watch it, because it's an old act. It's a major insecurity. Danny said thin skin, if that's what you want to call it as well. But that program has several other significant problems that they have to work through. And I think Deion's smart enough where he is navigating this in a way where he always wants to be the topic of conversation. It's not about his team. It's about Deion. Name 4 players outside the top 2 on that team. You probably can't. I can't, because it's always about Deion. And to his credit, Danny mentioned it, he has kind of brought back Colorado, that program, from no man's land. However, there's no reason to treat someone like that. In a press conference situation, it's whether you agree with that person or not, whether you have something to bone to pick with that person or not, in those settings, the way to approach is just out of respect. You don't have to get defensive. And if you want to, it goes back to that insecurity. You're covering up other things with those actions.
Agreed. And there's not much else I can say, but I will say this. He has learned from Jerry Jones, and I liken this to Mike Gundy to the 2007 I'm a man, I'm 40 rant. I feel like Gundy felt that way, but he also, as Deion did this, saw this as an opportunity to continue to put Colorado in the daily news cycle on a much bigger scale. He saw this as an opportunity, but he was offended because I couldn't remember if it was about that article that was done about his son or the fact that CBS digital space listed him. They had the list of the top 14 or, 1 through 14, the coaches, best coaches in the Big 12. He was number 13 above Arizona State's. And that's what I thought that he got a little offended by. But
they make those lists all the time. If you're
every year
consumed with that, you're consumed with the wrong things to take something like that personally.
It's not the fact that it's CBS National and CBS Local, that you're treating a local reporter like that, who by all, you're saying you respect and you love, and, you don't have a problem with him, be the same. Like it would not be acceptable for Steve to stand on the podium and not answer my question because he was pissed off about something that Cedric wrote. Like, so it is incredibly inappropriate for 2 newsrooms that aren't even connected for that to be the line that you draw. And I don't know, at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is there's probably a lot of people, like, the 3 people on this call, that are annoyed by it because we're related to the media, and nationally a lot of people are laughing at Deion, but I'm sure in Boulder those people are probably rallying around him. And the thing that does annoy me about it, and I think Deion needs to be careful about, is people will follow his word and rally behind him. And I would hate for that reporter from CBS to be a casualty of angry people on social media or angry Colorado fans because Deion decided to put this hit on him for something he didn't do. And I think sometimes coaches and these people who are revered by a lot of people need to also take that into account too. And this guy just got kind of put in the crossfire for no reason aside from CBS being in his name, that his job title.
We live in a world currently where the coach, the athlete, the power in those coach positions, in those player positions, have never been stronger. And the relationship thus with the media, in my eyes, Clinch, Danny, you can correct me, has weakened because they don't see the necessity where now the players can go on social media themselves and produce the story that they want to share from their eyes, right, in which they say it's truthful. Same deal with the coaches. I mean, Deion has all the power in the world, and it's how he uses that power that unfortunately led to this circumstance.
Agreed. He needs to focus on getting into bowl eligibility and quit worrying about what people
football
want.
Games.
Win games.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
We're taping this on a Monday. The Olympics shut down yesterday, and it was a fun 2 weeks. I really enjoyed the Olympics this year. I mean, it was nice seeing. This is like the 2 weeks where I'm really patriotic before I go back to complain about a lot of things that are wrong with this country, like many are. So I mean, it was a lot of. I think this was your Tell Me Something Good last week, but like I enjoyed it. It was fun watching the track this last week. It was fun watching. I mean, that Steph Curry game on Saturday was absurd and a lot of fun. And this is Charlie was like 7 months during the Tokyo Olympics. So this was his first time really realizing what was going on and being interested, and just watching him try to be a gymnast around our living room, or thinking he could become the next, American hero on the track or in the pool. Was this fun? And so I enjoyed the Olympics. I am not going to care at all in 2 years for the Winter Olympics, because those just aren't sports I care about, or to be honest, the people who look like me care about. But when LA comes around in 4 years, if I'm not sent there for work, hopefully I can maybe, find a way to get to LA and actually see some events and see the stuff, up front, because this was awesome. And I enjoyed everything from the opening ceremonies to the controversies. All this stuff was fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Winter Olympics because people who look like me participate in those games. So
I do not.
Fire me up. And I'll piggyback off of Danny and discuss how great the viewing experience was on Peacock with Gold Zone. It was just awesome how they were able to cut from 4 different events, highlight and have the broadcasters on. The viewing experience for the Olympics has changed the game moving forward for how I think professional sports leagues, other entities within American sports, international sports should handle how broadcasting is done and how viewers enjoy the realness of it. Because you still had the primetime events. They would replay events in the evenings, but they also didn't shy away. NBC didn't shy away from airing the events live as they happened. And you know what? It didn't faze me. Maybe I knew what happened, but I didn't see it. And I still enjoyed the recorded live events primetime as if I was watching it live. So, yeah, the Olympics raging success. It was cool to see all the Longhorns, all the Nittany Lions bringing home medals, a lot of local ties here to Austin, here to Texas. And then, of course, I went to Penn State, so I think they had 13 medals. Just very cool to see America crush it. I think KD had the quote of the Olympics, though. There's a lot of, messed up stuff that happens on the regular, but like experiencing this is as good as it gets. That was an awesome. I think Mike Finger down in San Antonio posted that on social media.
Go ahead and follow Danny Davis and read his great work with the Statesman. Tyler Feldman, still the humor, the everything. Watch where he lands, because whoever gets him, he's going to be an asset for whatever media outlet that he ends up on. Hopefully doesn't leave Austin, but that would be selfish for me to say that. But for Danny and the Tyler Feldman and the OG Man Cave boys, that being Hardball Harsh, Big Mike, and the Coach Mo, we are out.